Hello, everybody. Welcome to my first book review, and much less my first indie book review, too. And today I am going to be talking about Reworld by Jason DeGray. Reworld is a 61-page novella first published in DeGray's book Twisted Yarns. So, first off, I'm going to get into the story. Then I'm going to talk about the characters and then my general thoughts on the story itself. Alright, so, the story. The story follows the character of Diego, a sex fiend who habitually sleeps with as many women as possible. In fact, at one point in the book, he'd estimated his number to be over 1,100. I think it was 1,100, 11 ish, give or take. So, yeah. Anyway, Diego's sleeping around, and he finds that he slept with the wrong woman at the wrong time. Her husband happened to be Rory Everyday, the CEO of the company Reworld. And yeah, he's supposed to be at a conference. He comes home, catches Diego, and well, Diego does happen to escape. He knows that Reworld will be after him for what he did. So Diego, now on the run from Reworld, soon finds himself actually wanted by the police as well for murder and theft. Now, the murder, he was framed for that. Rory kills his wife and, yeah, frames Diego for the whole thing. But the theft was all Diego. He ends up stealing this necklace that has a Reworld chip in it. And it's a very important chip that comes to be a really important in the plot later on. So, with the help of Diego's friend Tim, he takes him to a New You place where Diego is turned into a woman. It's not really what Diego wanted, but it's kind of what he got because, it was a free sort of thing. So, Diego now as a woman manages to get past all the DNA security features and gets on a rocket ship. And from there, the rocket crashes, and true love, a corporate scheme, loss, and literal monsters await Diego as he learns to be a better person throughout the story, and eventually uncover the biggest scandal the world had ever known. If I go into more detail on the story itself, I'll be running into spoiler territory, so I'm not going to go any farther with that. So instead, I'm going to talk about the characters. For the most part, the characters of the story are fine. Tim is the typical best friend, willing to do whatever he has to in order to help his friend out. Haley is super sweet, if not a little naive towards the ways of the world. I mean, it's hardly that surprising. She spends her life on a island made out of garbage, so she's a little naive. Nice person, but naive. Rory Everyday as the villain is awesome. I really enjoyed the villain. He's maniacal. He's straight up evil. Like, he's almost every scene with Rory Everyday in it is, what this guy's about. Yeah, I think the only character I had any sort of problems with in reality was Diego himself. Diego reminded me a lot of the historical figure of Alcibiades, who is considered to be the most attractive man in all of history at that time. He got what he wanted, and people listened to him mostly because he was really hot. I mean, don't get me wrong, Alcibiades was a great tactician. He was an excellent warrior. There was a lot of actually good stuff going on with Alcibiades. He was a little shithead, much like Diego. But, yeah, a lot of Diego is based on his physical appearance. Women love him, men hate him, and that was that got annoying after a little while. Because even when he was a woman, men hated him, women loved him, and I just couldn't wrap my head around that as much. Generally, if a woman is incredibly attractive, men tend to like her more. than the women do, but, that's neither here nor there. You know, it's probably just how Diego, even as a woman, carried him herself, and, it's whatever. It's the sake that he got by on looks alone that frustrated me more than anything. I mean, shit. Women were willing to sacrifice their lives for this guy. Yeah, it became a little unbelievable, especially closer to the end. But anyway, not important. Or, I guess it is a little, but regardless. Diego also struck me as a little bit of an idiot. People would ask him for his name after he became a woman, and he'd just tell them his name's Diego. And then he'd go into telling his story to these people. Like, did Diego want to get caught? Did he want Reworld to know where he was at any given moment? Because, the one time they'll give it to him. The one time is when they're on the life raft after the rocket goes down. I'll give him that one. He says his name's Diego because, he recently became a woman and he was knocked unconscious. He was a little out of it. So, yeah. I'll give him that one. Telling his story to those people, though, that one didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Because, if the life raft had happened to make it to land and whatnot, he seriously risked getting himself caught. He seriously risked getting himself turned in. The whole thing with Haley. He does the exact same thing. And then later on, when he's sold to a brothel, he doesn't go over his story or anything, but he does say that his name is Diego. Like, either this guy is extremely dumb, or he wants to get caught. And my money's on the lacking of intelligence side of things. And on top of all that, Diego didn't seem to really know how to do anything. Like, seriously, anything. It was Timothy who got him the sex change to hide from Reworld. It was Haley who hacked the chip. It was a pimp that got him out of everything else. The altercation with Rory Everyday, an older version of Timothy that helped him escape the prison. Diego didn't really do anything. He just kind of rolled with it. But that's also kind of a redeeming quality for him as well. The sake that Diego was just willing to roll with it. He rolled with the punches and just accepted things as they were. I was actually quite pleased that I didn't have to sit for pages of Diego wallowing in self-pity because of the situation he put himself in. He accepted what he did. He was able to go, yeah, you know what? I fucked up. My bad. He didn't really try to get anybody else in trouble. He just, it just kind of happened. There's a lot of stuff that he didn't know would happen at any given time. Like Haley hacking the chip. He didn't know that it would cause Reworld to come after them. And I'm going to be getting into spoiler territory if I go much further into things. So I'm sorry I can't really go into too much detail. Because, yeah, I don't want to spoil the story for people who might want to read it. So in that case, I'll get on to the ending. And like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything, really, but I do need to talk about the ending. And I'll be honest, I didn't really care much for the ending. I found it went way too quickly. Stuff happened, and then more stuff happened, and then more stuff happened, and then, ooh, look, more stuff's happening, and then it was just done. And I'm there just kind of like, okay. It all made sense and it flowed, but it was just bang, 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 done. And I really didn't think Diego deserved the happy-ish ending that he'd gotten. mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't want to see the character kicked down into the dirt and suffer more than what he already had, but I I really just don't think he deserved what he got. He just wasn't the sort of character who deserved it. But I did. However, I did really enjoy that last chapter. When Rory decides that he's not done and will start again. Awesome. Loved that. Because, I mean, it really gets in down to the... It doesn't matter what goes on. If you're big enough, you can rebuild. Hell, it doesn't even matter if you're big enough. You can just rebuild. As long as you yourself have not died, there's always a way to rebuild yourself. So I kind of like that. I didn't... Actually, I even like that it was the villain that was rebuilding. So, yeah. So, getting into the rest of the story and the stuff that I liked and didn't like, I'm going to start with the stuff that I liked. And honestly, there's quite a bit of it. I mean, one of the things I really liked was the world itself. It was actually interesting. I mean, when I first started it, I thought it was going to be kind of like your stereotypical cyberpunk setting, but pretty early on, I actually found that there was a lot of biopunk in there too, and I don't know, I'm a bit of a sucker for biopunk. I think it's a really neat genre. But yeah, it's got genetic manipulation, it's got fucking sea monsters. I mean, that right there was cool. I really enjoyed the description of the sea monster. Awesome. And frankly, the island made of garbage, Constantinople, yeah, 2 thumbs up for that one. That was actually kind of original, in its own way. I mean, you don't really see people using an island of garbage. Like, you see the island of garbage in a lot of different media and whatnot, and a lot of different books and stories, but you don't really see them really utilizing it, using it as a place to stay. Because, yeah, there's vegetation, there's sand, there's all sorts of stuff there. It's basically a tropical getaway. It's just floating on a shit ton of plastic. Which, the oceans itself have been polluted to the point where only sea monsters can possibly live in it anyway, so there's nothing really going on wrong there in terms of the plastic island. I mean, there's the whole environmental thing that, yeah, you guys know what I'm getting at. So, I also really like the way DeGray explored the ways that ReWorld fuels consumption. He puts these little ReWorld commercials at the beginning of most of the chapters, which, frankly, I loved. I really enjoyed seeing those. Because he wasn't giving me an info dump. He gives these little commercials, these little snippets, and that actually really helped explore what ReWorld was. You don't have Diego going on a tangent about things, because the information is being presented to you in at least a somewhat original way. And actually, there's even a point in the book itself where it talks about printed books having commercials. So, I read that part and I'm like, I see what you did there. Love it. Like I said, I really liked the island of Constantinople. It was my favorite setting within the book. Frankly, it was just awesome. There wasn't a bad scene on that island. It was a fascinating place, cool characters, yeah. But I do have to say that the book really, really shines through its side characters. I mean, the side characters are usually the ones that writers tend to not pay a whole lot of attention to because they're side characters. They'll show up for a page or two, or they'll show up for a chapter or two, and that's it. But no, these characters were neat. They were interesting, and they really shined in the story itself. I mean, shit, one part in particular that really stuck out for me was, again, when they were on the life raft. 2 characters got into an argument over fate and destiny and free will. And all I could think while I was reading that is, wow, they're basically doomed. There's very, very little chance that they will be rescued. So they're having a friendly debate, probably to take their mind off of the doom that they are going to be facing. And that's just a very human thing to do. And yeah, that just really spoke to me. But now we got to get into the very few things that I did not really care for in the story. There were a couple smaller things. The PC culture having taken a one hell of a nosedive. Yeah, that didn't translate as well. I mean, it actually kind of reminded me of living back in the 90s. Because, I mean, I was around in the 90s. I remember what it was like living in that time. Everything's gay, everything's nah. And yeah, the character kind of talked like that. I don't know, maybe it's because it's been like almost 20 years since the 90s ended, that style of talking just doesn't resonate as well as it does. But I mean, at the same time, I've also got to look at things from a world building perspective as well. And in that sort of world, PC culture would have taken one hell of a nosedive, because the thoughts and feelings of other people tend to not be as important as just trying to stay alive. So, I mean, I get it. I really get it. I really, really do. But, yeah, it just didn't translate near as well as probably it should have. And the only other thing that I really didn't care for was just how fast everything happened. And again, I understand. It's a novella. A whole bunch of shit has to happen in a small amount of time. So things do have to go fast. And a lot of that speed does also add to the level of urgency that Diego goes through. It just was a little too fast, I found. It's like with the ending. It's like, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. And I don't really have time to digest what I just read before a whole other crisis is happening. But yeah, that's really the only things that I didn't care for, other than the main character himself. And even then, he was likable enough that I really didn't mind following him through the story. He was just kind of a bit of a dunce that didn't really do a whole lot. He more reacted than acted. But so finally, we get to the rating point. Reworld was a lot of fun to read. And yeah, I didn't like the main character all that much, but there's a lot of good in there too, and he didn't dampen the experience any. So, all in all, I give Reworld a solid 6.5 out of 10. Not bad. Not bad at all. Hey everybody. Thanks for watching my first ever book review. If there's anything that you'd like to talk to me about in terms of my review, if I should script it out a little bit better, if I should go a little less off the cuff, if I just didn't review it to your standard of quality, I'll let me know in the comments below. Because, I mean, like I said, this is my first review. And as I go on, I'm going to eventually evolve how I do things and, whatnot. Unfortunately, Mr. James DeGray got the shit end of that stick. I mean, I'm pretty sure I did a decent enough job of getting my point across on how I felt about the book. But, maybe people want more than what I gave. So, I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. And also, be sure to subscribe to my channel, because, I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. It's not going to be like my books versus films, where, you might get one a month, or one every few months, depending on which books I've been reading, which books I've been wanting to read, etc., etc. So, yeah. Subscribe. because, yeah, you get all the content that I can possibly give. And anyway, that's it for today. See you later.